This is the Sports Dynasty Podcast. I'm Trevor, and this is Juan. Before we get started, make sure you like, share, and subscribe.
Now, screw that. Before we get started, look who we have on the screen.
Yes, normally it's supposed to have it, but this is probably one of the biggest episodes we're ever going to record. We have our special guest today. He's a comedian.
Yeah, I can't do his whole thing.
Yeah, it's too much going on. He's a comedian. Die-hard Steelers fan. He does the NFL commentary on YouTube, and we have Chiseled Adonis. How are you doing, brother?
I'm happy to be here. I'm none other than the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the Chiseled Adonis, Pittsburgh Steelers aficionado, comedian, stand-up comedian, internet personality, content creator. You name it, I've probably done it. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, that was awesome.
That was awesome. I didn't want to be a fanboy on the freaking air, but Jesus Christ, it's hard not to.
Now you can do the plug. It's a lot of words, a lot of alliteration.
Yeah, but before we get started, guys, make sure you like, share, subscribe. We're on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play Radio, Stitcher Play Radio, app Podcast Dynasty on Twitter. Join the Facebook group. We are growing very rapidly.
Even though he has a war with Facebook, you still fighting with Facebook, or is that over?
Oh, I'm still blocked right now as we speak. I think I'm blocked for like 7 more days.
Damn it!
Yeah, Jesus, it's brutal right now. Yeah, I'm still blocked. Actually, somebody had recently bought my hat. If I click on the like, it should pop up momentarily. Oh, there it is. Yeah, still restricted for 8 days. So yeah, literally as we speak. So it's brutal right now.
We got our first flag in our group.
First flag in our group today. We couldn't believe it. I was like, I don't know whether I should be upset or honored that we are part of this establishment, a part of this luxurious group of badasses, of Facebook badasses.
Well, there it is. I mean, we're an exclusive group. You know, we're getting blocked by Zuckerberg and banned by Zuckerberg and flagged by Zuckerberg. So it is what it is.
Yeah. But other than that, yeah, so you guys just share in the group. You guys have been doing a great job with that as far as the conversation is like, wow, like you see a lot of memes in there, a lot of sports stuff in there. We have a good time in there, a lot of good times in there. So make sure you guys check us out over there.
Got a Ravens fan talking a lot, chirping a lot in the group now too.
Yeah, we had a Ravens fan early on today too, man. He's hilarious, man, but...
Look at his face.
Baltimore Ravens. What's so bizarre is a lot of people believe, since I'm a Steelers fan, so you would think, man, Ravens, come on, you just grind your teeth, you're not having a good time. I actually respect the Ravens probably the most in the league outside of my own ball club. I always had the most respect for the Ravens. It's just when they lose, it's a good day, as long as it comes by.
It's a good day for me too.
Or the Pittsburgh Steelers,
It's a good day for me too, because I can't stand them either. All right, so let's get started, shall we? So let's talk a bit about your 2020 season. You got loads of content about that already, as everybody should know. But let's go through it a little bit. That 11-0 stretch. So you guys were just whooping everybody's asses for 11 straight games. How was that? What was that feeling? What did you think about the team at the time?
Well, I can't necessarily say we were whooping everybody's asses, but
at first you were.
At first, it appeared like after we beat Tennessee, it said, all right, this team has a potential to do something very special. And then around week 8, we started just skating by. Like we would just get by teams. And you can see the defense is doing things that are very special. You're getting to the quarterback at an extremely accelerated pace. You're taking the football away at a great pace as well. And for some apparent reason, on the offensive side, things just were not clicking. Ben wasn't playing like trash by any means, although when you look at, he'd throw interceptions in bulk, so it would make it seem as if it was much worse than what it really was. But it was just the lackluster play calling and execution on offense, the unwillingness to run the football. So that first 11 games, although it was like, yeah, we'll take a win, it's kind of one of those feelings where it's like, we win in these games, but I don't feel like we won because there's a level of expectation that you have from your team. Just winning games don't mean nothing no more. We've got to really stomp a team out rather than every game is a damn heart attack. So the first 11 games, it was one of those feelings like, yeah, we're undefeated, but I don't feel like this is going to last for long.
And then December happened.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. uh, during that month, outside, let's talk about that Colts game, because that's the game you actually won and you actually looked like you had a pulse again. So let's talk about that game. When that game happened, how did you feel? Did you fall for anything, or what was your perception then?
When they made the comeback, I sat there, I said to myself, all right, perhaps this is a situation where things are going to look, very good. I like the way the offense is looking. I like the way the defense is looking. Maybe they can take this momentum and run with it moving forward. Evidently, that's not what happened. It turned into Game of Thrones. The winter came and kicked our ass.
Yeah. We don't got to talk about the January game. That's okay. But I'll just settle this to segue into now. So in your offseason, you've gotten a new offensive coordinator. Did you throw a party?
No, I did not. I did not. Initially, I thought they were gonna get somebody outside of in-house, but then promoting Canada. He's worked with Ben. I believe he was the QB coach for quite some time. So since that's the case, I'm not really expecting anything new. I would just hope that they commit to the run game. Drafting somebody like Najee Harris, who I'm pretty sure we're going to get into a little bit later, but drafting somebody like Harris and taking somebody who you expect to give the ball to on the ground, I would hope that they're going to have a much more balanced attack. And regardless of the fact that Roethlisberger is going into year number 18, I hope they trust him throwing the ball deep, because the times that he did attempt to go deep, it worked out for the most part.
It did, with Chase Claypool. Exactly right. But now, here's the thing that I want to see what you say now, is you want to run the football more. Now, I'm going to go with PFF standards. I don't know how you feel about scientific data and analytics and all that garbage. But they rate your offensive line 31st out of 32.
Yep.
Do you have any concerns about that offensive line? Because there's a lot of turnover coming from that unit.
The one thing that I have a problem with is I've seen if you recall the second championship run in 2008, Pittsburgh had one of the worst offensive lines. Like, if I'm not mistaken, Roethlisberger was sacked the most that season, and over the course of a 6-year span, he was the most sacked quarterback in NFL history. So because that's the case, I'm not too concerned about the pass blocking. The run blocking, I just think, if they commit themselves to say, we're going to run the ball and we're not going to shy away from it, it's only a matter of time before things work out. It's the predictability that really did the offensive line, complete dirt last year, because you knew they were going to throw short passes. You knew they were going to run the ball less than 10 times. And you knew Roethlisberger was going to release the ball within about the first 2 seconds. So the offensive line they did not exist. You just do a short rush and just put your hands up. Hence why Roethlisberger led the league in the most balls batted. So I would just hope the offensive line commits themselves to just go out there and just block somebody and run. We don't need the number top 5 offensive line like we had at 2017, 2016. We just need about a top, let's say, 15 and your number 15. And I think that's enough to get us by. As long as Pittsburgh commits to running that football and the offensive line can at least give Najee Harris a little bit of space.
That's an amazing point you made about 2018. I don't know if people remember back then, that offensive line was absolutely dreadful. But if I'm not mistaken, it did run block pretty well for Willie Parker, I think. A while ago. Trying to put my brain back then.
Yeah, they blocked all right. But just the pass blocking was absolute garbage. But Pittsburgh has always been a staple for knowing how to run the football. Pittsburgh, smash mouth football is what they're about. What we're going to do is run the ball down your throat, and we're going to play hard-nosed defense. But when you become a pass-happy attack and you're not even, willing to go and run the football, what kind of identity do you even have? The fact that Ben was throwing all these short passes to try to overcompensate for the lack of run game is why the offense was so ridiculously predictable.
That's a great point. So then let's talk about Roethlisberger then. So what are your feelings towards him? Again, this is year 18. He's the last remaining 2004 quarterback. The last one. So and he just came from an elbow surgery, not even 2 years ago. So what is your state on Roethlisberger as your quarterback?
Man, I feel much more confident with Roethlisberger calling the shots than I do with whether it's Dobbs, Whack-A-Mole, Mason Rudolph, or Dwayne Haskins. I feel much more confident with Roethlisberger because he is the offense. And I expect him this year. One, I'm not too concerned about the interceptions depending on how it happens. If he's just throwing it directly to the defense, now I have a bit of cause to pause. But we're better with him on the field than we are with him off the field. It just comes down to what are the plays that we're going to be running game in, game out, drive in, drive out. Because that first 15 plays, Roethlisberger has to come out strong and exude confidence. If he goes out there and you're still playing the short game left and right, we're going to have a very tough season on the offensive side of the ball.
All right. Which then brings me to Tomlin. He's been, the most successful outside of Belichick? Like, he never had a losing season in his entire career as of this point. So, with him as the helm, what is your confidence level leading into the season? Him as your guy, Roethlisberger as your guy, and hopefully your running identity returns. What is your confidence level?
I would say for the first time, well, not necessarily the first time. This is the third season that since Tomlin took over, that he actually cultivated his own defense because he inherited Bill Cowher's defense, and they were at the time themselves and the Ravens best in the world. And then ultimately age did what it had to do. And when Tomlin cultivated what was a top 3 offense in the league, they couldn't guard anybody. They couldn't tackle anybody. They were always getting to the quarterback. So with Tomlin, I expect the defense to continue to be dominant. I expect this season the offense to meet them. But the one criticism that Tomlin has had throughout his entire career, no matter how consistent that he's been and hasn't had a losing season, when it comes to playing teams that are under 500, and it's not just, they're coming in, they're 4-5, and you're playing in a week 10, or you're coming in a week 3 and they're 1-1. No, when it's week 14 and you're playing against a team that is 3-11 or 3-10, for some apparent reason, we got to win on a field goal. So I expect Tomlin, when you're playing against these teams that are struggling all year, you have to crush them. There can't be, we're just skating by. Granted, football is any given Sunday. But if you're in a situation where every time you play against the Detroit Lions, it comes down to a game-winning field goal, you're playing against at the time, Oakland Raiders, you got to have to come down to a field goal. You're playing against the Chargers, who finds a way to lose all the time. Like, I feel like if we played against the Falcons and we were up by 25, Falcons would come all the way back. And then we'd have to end their dreams because, they always end up choking. Like, that's just a feeling that I always had. I get more concerned when Pittsburgh plays against a lower, ranked team than when they play against a higher ranked team.
That's interesting you bring that up because I felt that way for the last, I don't know how many years too. Like, I think it was 2018 when you guys lost against Denver off a game-losing pick. I'm just like, why are they struggling? Like, I think the Raiders
total yards of offense that we lost 3 straight games during that stretch. We had 500 plus yards of total offense. Grimble fumbles going across the goal line. Why is he trying to run somebody over? I wish I knew. You're too damn big. It's a defensive back. Just go into the end zone, sidestep, showcase some elusiveness. Juju had that 97-yard touchdown that game, I believe, as well. And still, we lose like that. The very next week, like you mentioned, against Oakland, Boswell slips on the field goal. But even furthermore, we play like absolute garbage on the offensive side of the ball. Pittsburgh finds a way to just go and struggle against these teams that you should not be struggling against. It don't make sense.
And do you have a possible theory about that? Do you think it's maybe a lack of discipline? Do you think it's a coaching thing? What's your opinion on that?
It's so mind-boggling because when you look at Tomlin's teams, they are so well disciplined. So when they go into play against a top team in the league, it's seldom do you see them get absolutely blown off of the screen. And I'm talking when I say that, I'm not talking like, they're turning the football over, all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. But you don't see a team defeat them for 4 straight quarters outside of the Patriots, of course. Because Belichick, him and Brady had their way with Pittsburgh left and right, and sometimes with Peyton Manning-led teams. But it takes a transcendent player or a transcendent coach to completely delete the Pittsburgh Steelers off of the damn map. But for some apparent reason, whenever they play against those lower ranked teams, it now becomes a battle of attrition. So I wish I can point to what it could be, whether it's just a lack of, them being prepared, or maybe just it's a mindset kind of thing, or maybe they're overlooking their opponent. But I really do not understand it, because when you look at their preparation by week to week, it's all very similar. So I don't get it. I feel like we're in a Madden stimulation whenever they go play against somebody. It's like, yeah, today is where we're gonna increase the difficulty. Let's put it from easy to Hall of Fame.
Dude, that's it. It does feel that way sometimes, because then it'd be that's why gambling is so damn hard for that reason. You'd be like, what the hell? How did this?
Especially the parlays in the 5 for 5 sheets is like, you never know. Football is so unpredictable. That's why I can't do it no more. It's like, come on, man, it's ridiculous,
dude. So let's get into the draft now. So Najee Harris, which usually drafting running back in the first round is something that most people don't like. I usually don't like it, but for this particular one,
it was definitely necessary.
Mm-hmm. This is the one time I'm like, nah, they needed this bad. So before we get into the draft, I have one question. How did you feel about James Conner's running back?
I actually did not mind him. I feel like he wasn't quite Le'Veon Bell, but I'd say about a 78%, very bizarre percentage, but about a 78% kind of very like precise. Le'Veon, because he was very elusive. If I'm not mistaken, his Pro Bowl year, he might have led the league in broken tackles. And this guy he'd find a way to make people miss, but he was made of glass. Now, granted, he battled, cancer and all these other things, but in football, the best ability is the availability. So if you're in a situation where you can't be on the field, there's some time, there's going to be some cause to pause. But last year, I feel as if everything worked against him, because Pittsburgh didn't believe in him anymore to try to run the football. When James Conner had over 15 carries in his career, Pittsburgh only lost, I believe, 2 games. So when you give him the ball and he goes over 100 yards, you win. It's just the football way. When your running back gets over 100 yards, I believe the percentage has to be over 80% of a win percentage. Now, that's not to say it's easy to get over 100 yards, but if you commit yourself to it and you pick up yards on the ground, things could work out in your favor. So I liked Conner as a back, but he wasn't as dependable. So I wish the brother the best in Arizona, but let's go Najee. Let's see how things work out with him.
Yeah, draft guy.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Yeah, I thought, not gonna lie to you, when we had our draft, it was pretty much straight up. You had to draft running back. Pretty much had to happen right then and there. Is there any other, besides Najee Harris? Is there any other draft picks that you guys got that you were pretty much pleased with? Besides that,
what, from just this year?
Yeah.
Okay, so I like the tight end Pat. I cannot pronounce his last name. I believe it's Fearmouth, something like that. But I like that guy. I like him. I feel like he could be a second coming of a Heath Miller. Very dependable hands, catch the football when you need him to, and move the chains. It's possession tight end. I don't need all the extra theatrics, catch the ball, make people miss, go down the field. Don't need that. Just get me somebody who can get the ball, secure it, get it ruled as a catch. Jesse James, I'm talking to you, and move the chain.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was about to ask him that too.
Oh, and I like Quincy. From, I believe he was from the U. Quincy Rock. From the U. Yeah. I like him.
Yeah, I got the list from him right now because I forgot. I have to look up real quick. Yeah, the tight end you got. I don't know how to say his name either. You got it. I don't know his name either. So with that said, let's move on to the defensive side of the ball, because that was the shining point. That was I guess if it wasn't for the offense tendering down like it was, that more than likely would have ended up as the best defense in the NFL. Yeah. Instead, it fell to like 2. Wow. So now that you have that, I know, right? Now that you've lost Bud Dupree, which was an edge rusher, which I'm sure you're like, but you're gonna have Devin Bush back, which is gonna be freaking huge. Your Ryan Shazier replacement. But now I want to talk about the secondary. You've lost Steven Nelson. There's a little bit of turnaround in that secondary. Where's your confidence level there?
Well, for one, Minka continues to get overlooked as it pertains to just ranking and things of that. And so he's going to continue to come in with a chip on his shoulder. In my opinion, top 2 safety in the league. I don't say he's the best, but he's a top 2 safety in the league. That guy makes plays. And Joe Hayden, regardless of how much older that he is, he still is able to instill that leadership into that defense. So with the secondary, I expect them to play better than they did last year because they had a little bit of injuries, a little bit of, the timing was a bit off. So I expect them to go out there, catch a few picks, defend a few balls, and hold it down because Pittsburgh's front seven has always been elite. It's that back half that's always given us a problem. So I'm expecting them to go out there and do their jobs. And as for the losses, losing Bud Dupree, that's a big blow because him and TJ were lethal. But I like Highsmith. We brought in Melvin Ingram from the Chargers as well.
Huge.
So and Cam Hayward is top 5 defensive tackle in the league, and he's always been good. So that front seven is going to get after the quarterback. I believe we led the league in sacks like the last 4 years. So I expect them to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands early, and our secondary got to go out there and make splash plays. But the one problem Pittsburgh has always had, especially last year, we've given up, I believe, about 27 big plays down the field over 20 yards. And these majority of them come on third down. So in football term, when they say don't blink, this is the epitome of that. We had situations where it's 3rd and 17. We give up a 40-yard gain. How is this happening? You can't all be in a cover third and you're getting beat deep.
Yeah, on a cover.
It's just that's where you see, lack of discipline. But what's great, the coaches instill into the players, this is the situation. It's just mental lapses from the players on the field. So these guys got to do their job, get their head out of their, gluteal clefts and guard somebody.
Yeah, that can happen. So let's move on to tracks of success then, because we hit your off season pretty much. So, or we talk about let's talk about the receivers real quick. Let's go on to Juju because you have Juju for a year, which is interesting. Do you have any theories as to why you only have the 1 year deal? You think he's just trying to prove himself, or maybe he didn't get enough offers money wise, or because that one interests me a lot.
I believe he actually received a higher offer from the Chiefs. And I believe the Ravens were slightly interested, but I don't think they made him an offer. I recall seeing articles saying that the Ravens were possibly interested in bringing him in, but I don't remember if he ever took a meeting. But he definitely was in contact with the Chiefs. I think he took the 1 year deal because Pittsburgh's only given out 4 contracts to receivers prior, second contracts to receivers prior. And Juju, he really wants to stay in Pittsburgh. So I think this would be, like you said, a situation in which he can prove himself further. Because say what you want about Juju Smith-Schuster, he may not be the number 1 receiver of number 1 receivers, but he's a very solid receiver. And he fits the mold of the, Pittsburgh Steelers receiver outside of just the TikTok dances. So I think Juju and the receiving core, as long as they don't go out there and drop the ball, they'll be okay. Yeah, exactly. Because Deontay Johnson, for what it was worth, this guy should have had 1,300 yards last year. Like, Pittsburgh should have had 3,000-yard receivers, like shades of the Arizona Cardinals in 2008, where there was a Fitzgerald, Bolden, and Breston. With those 3, all went over 1,000. Pittsburgh should have had that happen. I believe Chase Claypool might have led them in receiving. No, it was. I think Johnson led them in receiving yard with like 900 something. Juju had like 890, and then Claypool had like 860.
He might have had the big play.
Yeah, and I think that's what he had. Exactly. So with these guys, as long as they catch the football and Big Ben throws the ball vertically down the field, I think the receivers can do their job. So it just comes down to what are the pass plays that we're calling. But I like Juju. I do. He's a hell of a great run blocker in the pass game. Well, from the receiver standpoint, great run blocker. He's able to open up holes, and he has a great tenacity about him. He has a good attitude about him. Of course, outside of the TikTok dance. But yeah.
So what happened to James Washington? Because he always had the ability to be like amazing. Why y'all don't pay attention to him? What happened?
I wish I knew. Like he slipped down to the fourth receiver, and I don't like that. Like truly, we should be able to get all of the receivers, especially with the amount of times that Big Ben threw the football last year. James Washington should have also had over 800 yards. The percentage of targets that he had coming in his direction, I don't know if it was a practice sort of thing or his lack of separation in the games. There were moments in which you needed a ball to get caught. You needed a play. James Washington was getting that done. We were in a third and long situation. It was James Washington who was able to get his hands on the football. I forget who. I don't know if it was Philly or if it was against Indianapolis when he had that touchdown catch right at the front of the end zone last season. I can't remember which team it was against, but it was James Washington who was able to get us out of that funk offensively. So I would hope that they get this man the ball because he's a good receiver. He could be a number 2, number 3 receiver on any team outside of those who got like 2 number 1s. But I expect him to get much more looks this year. Like he should have no less than 60 receptions this season.
No, because he's really good. I'm like, what happened? I think it might have been Indy that catch you're talking about because I remember me going like, there he is. Like, where has he been?
Maybe it was Indy.
Yeah, because I remember saying like, yo, what happened to him? Because he was really good. All right, now traction success. We already touched base on most of it, but I always ask everybody this question: what do you think? What's the roadmap? I'll use that to get your team to the highest potential they can possibly go this season. Whatever you think it is, what's the roadmap?
Well, for one, it all comes down to attitude. Because for you've got to look at those past Pittsburgh Steelers teams that made it to the Super Bowl and won, and what was their identity? How did you win these games? Of course, the defense is going to show up and do what they do. Barring injury, Pittsburgh had probably the most talented defense in the league, in my opinion. They are extremely talented. So if nobody gets hurt, I think they can go quite the distance because Bud Dupree getting hurt last year really hurt. Devin Bush getting hurt really hurt as well. So if those guys stay healthy across the board, this can be a championship defense. Similar to you guys, the Patriots, and I believe it was 2000. Was it 2019?
19 when we had that crazy?
Yeah, it was Brady's last year there.
2019.
That defense, the first 8 games, I think you guys only allowed like 9 points. Took the football away almost 20 times midway through the season. But you're looking at the offense like, do something so this can be a legendary defense. And last year, Pittsburgh's defense was well on their way. The offense did not show up. So I think they need to take notes from what transpired from the last time Pittsburgh went to the Super Bowl in 2010 and look at it year by year and what was missing. And take a look at the roster and say, man, we have the answer to all of our questions right here. We've just got to execute. And that will put you on the right road to where you're trying to go, which is ultimately a 7th Lombardi.
All right. Sounds great. So then what is your expectation in terms of ceiling? Not prediction, ceiling.
I would say the ceiling, for one in the regular season, I believe they can win 13 games. I think that's probably going to be the ceiling. I don't see them going any further than that. But I'd say 13 games, and truly, because based on the way things looked last year was probably the first year in quite some time where there was no one particular team that you looked at and said, they are better than everybody. The Chiefs, although their record showed they only lost 2 games, those guys were extremely beatable. Las Vegas exposed them when they beat them the first time, and a ton of teams adopted that exact same ideology. If you take a look at those Chiefs games, it didn't start to really separate until about like the 4th quarter or so, and they still were somewhat skating by. So when they lost to Tampa Bay in the championship, I wasn't slightly
surprised either.
So
we had a whole show about that Chiefs team. That December exposed them entirely. But yeah.
A lot of people thought, man, this team is unbeaten. No, they're not. They're not. And lo and behold, that's what happened to them. And so with Pittsburgh, I think they can go as far as the AFC Championship as long as they run the football. I think when Najee Harris has his first 100-yard game of his career, whenever that may be, it's going to be a dominant 100-yard performance. I would just hope Pittsburgh commits to that and they don't get extremely pass happy and all this other stuff. So that's what can carry them. I believe it's AFC Championship is where they'll get to. Division, I know Baltimore's improved. I know Cleveland's improved as well. But I believe Pittsburgh will repeat as division champions. And the AFC Championship, that is the floor. Because it truly is championship or bust. It's Ben's last year. Mm. So you've got to go and get that Super Bowl. Nobody cares about an AFC Championship berth or Super Bowl berth. Go win the damn thing.
You mentioned the AFC North. But their offseason going on, you have Baltimore. They lost in the AFC divisional round to Buffalo, so they're trying to retool to be, go back up there. You have Cincinnati, who's Joe Burrow lost for the season last season. He's trying to come back, to improve there. I wish they should have took a P.N.I. Sewell in the first round, but they got the receiver instead. And with Cleveland coming back. That jolt of excitement in Cleveland. What is your point of view of the state of the NFC North from a Steelers fan?
For one, I always love AFC North football because I feel like they have that attitude. The Ravens and Steelers games, somebody gonna get hurt. Like you could be watching at home. Yeah, it's brutal.
God,
I used to put Band-Aids on. I'm like, damn, somebody get their ass flipped out there. Let me make sure I patch myself up. So and now with the Browns' emergence, and truly, in my opinion, I look at the Cleveland Browns the same way I look at the New York Knicks. When they're playing good football, the league is better. So with the Browns not being a laughing stock, it now becomes must-see TV. You got to see them too. And with Cincy, they've got a very young core now. Joe Burrow, he was probably, I don't think he would have won Rookie of the Year, but he definitely would have had an argument for it if he had played the entire season. I still think Herbert would have messed around. Was it Herbert who won it, or was it Justin Jefferson? I believe it was Herbert. Yeah, I believe it was Herbert. But I think he would have still ended up, winning it. But Burrow was playing all right. It was just the offensive line could not protect this man at all. So this season, I expect there to be 2 playoff berths, that being Pittsburgh and Baltimore, and I think Cleveland is just going to miss it. I think they're going. They last year they won those 50-50 games to where it could have went anywhere, and they were able to win.
They did.
This year, I think it's not going to be in their favor. I feel like they'll be in games, and then some will slip away from them. Like they'll have a very good start. I think they'll be like a 4-2, 5-2, but November. Transitioning into December from that week 9 to week 13 area, they're probably going to go on a losing streak that is going to crush their fans' hearts because it's going to be games where you lose by a field goal, you mess around and have a turnover on a game, a go-ahead sort of drive at the tail end of the game. It always happens.
And how they respond to that, right?
How do you respond to that adversity? Because you were once either one in your division, you're number 1 in your division, you're number 2, or you're a few games ahead of 500. Now you find yourself at 500. You're losing a bit of games. You're being tested. How do you respond to that? So I want to see how that plays out because you say what you want about Baker Mayfield. He's coming up in his day. OBJ is coming back. Nick Chubb running the football very exceptionally well. Jarvis Landry still got to be dealt with at receiver. That defense, Myles Garrett playing at top 3 defensive ends in the league the way that he played last year. But how can these guys battle against adversity? You got the monkey off your back. You got yourself a playoff berth for the first time since 2002. Can you do it again? So that's what the real question is. And with Baltimore, I'm not concerned about them in the regular season at all. Show me what you're going to do come postseason.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not counting the divisional games, because that'd be too easy. Is there a game on your schedule that you look forward to the most? It could be 1 or 2 games, but is there a game on your schedule that you look forward to the most?
Boy, the Steelers schedule. All right, let me pull it up. The number for one, I believe we're playing the Bills again.
Week 1.
Want to week 1, right? That's how we kick off the season. So that's a big one because our 2 losses to the Bills over the course of the last 2 years have been games that Pittsburgh could have won and just found ways to lose. I mean, Devlin Hodges 2 years ago, 4 interceptions against Buffalo, unacceptable. Last year,
Oh yeah,
could
that
not catch
night
one.
game.
Yeah,
I know what
yeah,
you're
that
talking
night
about.
game on Sunday Night
Yeah.
Football could not
Mhm.
convert passes down the field. That was a game where the defense
The
showed up.
defense was sensational. I remember that game. That was
We could
frustrating.
not finish, and we could not finish. And then last year, I believe it was Wednesday. No, we played Baltimore on Wednesday. We played the Bills. I think
It was Sunday Night Football again.
it was Sunday Night Football again. Well, there it is.
Mhm.
So I remember it was a night game. The first pass that went Deontay Johnson's way, he just kept dropping. I believe that's when they benched him for the remainder of the first half. So if we catch the football, this now becomes a game. So I've got them and Buffalo circled. That's one. And then two that I would have circled there is definitely Pittsburgh and the Chiefs late in the season.
Ooh,
Because
yes.
that's going to be a huge battle of attrition. Because the last time that we had played the Chiefs, I believe it was in Pittsburgh. It was somewhat of a shootout. The Chiefs won like 42-37 or something of that nature, and we simply could not stop a soul. I think Patrick Mahomes still hasn't thrown for 6 touchdowns in his career. He threw for 6 against Pittsburgh. It was either 6 or 5. So I got those two as the biggest games. Granted, they're the two teams that went to the AFC Championship last year, but both of those two teams, that's going to be the true test.
A test, yeah.
Pittsburgh coming up this season. And of course, when they play against Tennessee, I want to see how that run defense is against Henry again.
Mhm.
No, those are great ones because those are gonna be how when you got questions on your team, there are the answers. How do I play against the? I guess you could say the class. Those are the class of the AFCs as right now. So
Yeah.
how do I measure up against them? If we can at least play tough, as long as you get in the dance, right? That's
Yup.
what matters.
And I love the timing of those games as well because we're kicking off the season against Buffalo. Who's coming into this game more prepared? And then now, week 13, week 14, you're playing against the Chiefs. Well, you're entering the final stretch of the year. So this is what's preparing you for what's to come in the postseason. So where are you at this particular moment? So those are huge tests for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. So now, what's your opinion? What's what I'm looking for? Your prediction. Period. You mentioned you said you're gonna win the North, right? So what is gonna be your record to do that?
Like I said, prior, the ceiling being 13 games, I think the floor would be 10. So I'm gonna go probably around a 12-5 since we have 17 games this year. So I'd say a 12-5 Pittsburgh will be at. But I really think they can get 13. But I'm gonna go 12-5.
So basically, that's basically the same as last year, just with a different schedule.
Mhm.
So I would say a lot. That's all
Yeah,
right.
but how they ended up with that record last year is much more devastating.
Exactly. It's
They
going to be
started
completely
leveling up.
different.
Yeah,
It's going to be
Yeah,
completely different.
It's a matter of when will Pittsburgh take these losses and when do they go on this run? Because Tomlin has had a history in his career of having the Steelers go on a streak where they've won 4-5 games in a row. So it really comes down to when are they going to hit that momentum and how long is that going to last?
Yep, like 2017, right? So, speaking of the history, let's talk about this history because your Pittsburgh Steelers history within the last 11 years has been an interesting one to say the least. If I'm not mistaken, you have your own video on this, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Do we have to go through that history? Because I can say it out loud. I already remember it all.
What the hell? Go ahead.
Yeah, you have to do it. You have to do it. Let me get my tissues.
So, after the Super Bowl loss in 2010 against Aaron Rodgers, by the way, do you have any animosity towards Aaron Rodgers because of that or no?
No, it was a good game. I actually enjoyed the game while watching it, and I said, man, you know what? Although Mendenhall fumbled the ball and Clay Matthews, I believe it. Yeah, Clay hit him right.
It was Clay Matthews. He basically,
hit the ball, and Mendenhall had a history of just leaving that ball out when he was running, but that was a hell of a tackle. Their forced fumble, and they took advantage. Yeah, that's what changed the game. And William Gay got toasted by Jordy Nelson. And Greg Jennings found the end zone, I think, twice or something of that nature. Just beat Palomalu by like a half second.
One of the more impressive touchdown catches I've ever seen because Palomalu laid the boom on his spine and held onto the ball like that.
Like, he still caught the damn ball. Damn. But Pittsburgh almost came back, just came up short. I'm not one of those people who think it was pass interference on that fourth and long at the end of the game. I'm not. So I don't have no animosity towards Aaron Rodgers. He's actually one of my favorite quarterbacks I've ever got the opportunity to watch play. So, it was Tough loss, but you win some, you lose some.
No, I asked because my friend's a Pittsburgh fan and he hates Aaron Rodgers to this day because of that. That's what I want to know. He felt the same way. All right. So after that, we have Tebow Mania in 2011. Mind you, they had the number 1 defense that year. Then 12 was something you want to forget. 13 is also something you want to forget. No playoffs at all. 14, you guys finally make it back, but then playoff Flacco's a thing, right?
Yeah, and also the injuries as well. I mean, we losing Le'Veon Bell in week 17, then also losing. I believe we had to play with Ben Tate at running back. So it was like, all right, this guy got signed during the week going into a playoff game. It's brutal. And one thing about 2013, two things. Against Miami, Antonio Brown would have had a very spectacular touchdown, and the man's foot stepped out of bounds. And then week 17, there was 4 things that needed to happen for Pittsburgh to make it to the playoffs. All 4 was well on their way, and all we needed was Kansas City to make a goddamn field goal. And
against the Chargers, right?
Yeah, against the Chargers. And I think, ride to the goddamn right. That pissed me off till this day. I can't get over.
Gotcha. In 2015 was actually similar. 2014, you did not have Le'Veon Bell, and Cincinnati did you a nice solid and knocked your receiver unconscious in Antonio Brown, which might have caused him to act the way he acted a couple years later. Vontaze Burfict, good job. And you wound up losing to Denver because you had to play your 28th string running back, and he wound up fumbling the ball for you. That pissed me off because I hated a Denver team with a burning passion. Because we're Patriots fans, they were our competition. I wanted them to burn, so I was rooting for you guys so bad. No, because Cincinnati. So that was, if I was a fan of yours, that probably would be the one that stung me the most. Was that one because you should have beat them regardless. But anyway, 16 they happened. And plus you lost both your star players in that same game. 17. That Jacksonville, what
Jacksonville that
dude,
year, I remember you made a video on the first Jacksonville game in the regular season where Ben Roethlisberger was just absolutely terrible. I remember that. I was like at that point I said, is he washed? Is he done? Like at that point I said no, he can't be washed at this point, but it was really bad. Then the playoff game after that, I was like, oh man, I think Jacksonville may have a number. That was crazy. I couldn't believe it either.
It was a brutal game because first I couldn't even watch the game because I had to end up. I believe I went to the hospital that day. So the problem that I had was third down. The defense could not stop Bortles, and it wasn't even like, oh man, Bortles is out there. He's slinging the ball everywhere. Nope. He's using his legs. We don't got a single linebacker who can stay true to stopping this damn quarterback. Like the fact that you put up 42 points and the Jaguars put up 45, that's crazy. And the difference maker was the strip sack that ended up leading to a fumble recovery touchdown by their defense. If that never happens, Pittsburgh probably can win that game.
You might have escaped.
The defense, that was the last of the defense that could not stop a damn soul.
Yeah, because they came back. They said, you know what, Antonio Brown's a guy. Maybe we should throw it to him, and then bop, bop, bop. They just came rolling back. I remember that. Antonio Brown almost did it by himself.
Yeah, Brown and Bell, both of those guys, they had an amazing game. And Roethlisberger, I think he threw 460 some yards.
Almost 500.
5 touchdowns, and nothing.
Yeah, that was bad. 18. What happened? 18. Oh, when you got robbed against the Saints, because you should have won that game. You got robbed from the referees. But that was a weird year, like we talked about earlier in the show about those losses. That was basically what lost you that season, was that stretch. It was ridiculous, and that was what is Tomlin the problem type. That's when those questions came up around that whole. That was a bad year for Mike Tomlin.
Because I think we were 7-2-1. We had tied the Browns in the start of the season, but then Pittsburgh kept things rolling. Then all of a sudden, like we talked about Brad, that's when we had that stretch of game. Denver, we lose. Oakland, we lose. You just sit there like, what the hell's going on right now? This don't make no sense. This should have been a season where we had double-digit wins, and truly, that was another year that Pittsburgh could have messed around and went all the way. And Bell wasn't even there. So it was one of those situations where I'm looking like, man, if Bell played this year, where the hell could we have been? But here we are, ringless.
What happened with him? Oh, that was the year he held out.
Yeah, that was the year he held out.
Yeah, what year was that? Oh, y'all won. We won, right?
Yeah, the
the Chip Patriots won.
guys,
The Chiefs though. That was that year with the Mahomes mania started.
Yep, and then D Ford being offsides.
Yeah,
I still thank him to this day.
I appreciate him. I'm fine with that.
To this day.
Ring.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then 2019, Roethlisberger got hurt.
Yep.
That was Fabiano quarterback. And that's when the defense really became powerful. It showed its real identity.
And what's still crazy was in 2019 we were 8-5.
Yes,
we were 8-5 going into the week 15, and I'm sitting there like, man, if we get a trip to the postseason, because that's what actually reinvigorated the flame for Tomlin, because at that point Tomlin was already somewhat on the hot seat for quite some time, but then without Roethlisberger, and Tomlin was still able to coach these guys to at least secure at least 500, said, damn, man, maybe Tomlin can coach. Maybe it's not Tomlin that's the problem here, regardless of the fact that it's a collective and he happened to be a part of that. But losing to the Bills, the last game against the Ravens, you knew that was going to happen. But there was another game after the Bills that they had played. Who they played? I can't remember who they played.
Jets.
The Jets. I was at that game. And I was like, man, if you win this game, we could at least make it to the postseason, probably. And then we lose to the damn Jets. I'm at that
Juju
game.
dropped the pass.
Like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding. That it was right there. You got all to catch the damn ball. We don't do it. And we end up losing. That season actually hurt more than the year prior when we had everybody except Le'Veon Bell. Because Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges, although you can tell they were not going to win you a playoff game, they gave you hope that you could at least make it. Like, watching them is like, yeah, there's no way. If I had to start a team, these guys are my quarterback. There is no way. But watching the games, you're like, yo, we might be able to pull this off. And then you mess around and lose.
That would have been Tomlin's finest hour. That would have been like the 2008 for Belichick.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That would have been him.
Yeah.
Yep, that would have been it for him. And then last year. So, all that misery, I can use that word, right? All the misery that you guys have went through the last 11 years. Do you it's kind of hard to find a reason for it because so many different things and different factors went in. But let me ask this question because your bias will come out here. How many Super Bowls would you at least attended in that 11-year stretch? If couple things went your way a couple years, little tweaks here and there, and less injuries here and there, less stupidity here and there. Do you think any Super Bowls would have been attended and or won in that 11-year stretch?
2. I think there would have been 2 Super Bowls that we would have went to. Actually, 3. 3 Super Bowls that we would have went to. I think we would win 1. 2011, when we lost against Denver. I think Pittsburgh.
That's a good one.
Pittsburgh could have went all the way, and I believe they beat that Giants team. And they went
so bad to me.
The only reason why they beat New England is because Tom Coughlin knows how to coach against Bill Belichick.
They have the number.
And what's hilarious is the way Tom Coughlin coaches against Bill Belichick is the same way Bill Belichick coached against, against Mike Martz and the St. Louis Rams back in 2001, to where you just let the run game. Well, the run game holes are going to be there, but then try to shut down the pass sort of situation, but things still sort of work out for you. That's the same way that it looked while I was watching Coughlin coach against Belichick. So I think that 2011 Steelers team, they could have gone all the way and won. 2014, I think Pittsburgh could have messed around and went to the Super Bowl, but lost against the Seattle Seahawks. Although in the AFC Championship game it would have been them and the Patriots, it could have went either way. Because that year, I feel like Pittsburgh, they started to hit a stride, and then Bell got hurt. So I think they could have definitely went to the Super Bowl, but they would have messed around and possibly lost. And then last but not least, 2017. That year would have been special, but that defense would have definitely cost us in the big game. So I think they would have gone to the Super Bowl. They just would have lost. So I think they would have went back-to-back years, 2010, 2011. They would have got redemption in 2011, and then we would have had two different berths and then messed around and lost.
2011 is my favorite. That it was between you, Baltimore, and New England, and New England's defense was negative.
Yep.
So they shouldn't have even beat Baltimore. Like it shouldn't have happened. Missed field goals. So that I like that one a lot. 14, that's the toughest one because that New England team was kind of complete. So it would have been great. You definitely, no question, that would have been a baller AFC Championship game compared to what we got. You know, the cheat game. And it says 17, right?
Yeah. That's when you guys actually went on to go beat the the Eagles beat you guys.
Eagles beat us, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give you guys more credit because at least you had a pass rush.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Foles would have been, you know, as comfortable as he was against the Patriots. So maybe you guys might have actually taken the Philadelphia Eagles. It's possible because your offense was good enough to score on that defense.
Yeah, definitely.
So
the offense would have been lighting up the scoreboard. It's just the secondary because Aguilar, regardless of the fact this man's hands is for decoration, Aguilar, Jeffrey, Ertz. Those guys came to play.
They did
that
come to play.
Season, that game. They were there. Like Foles played a very good game, but his receivers and his tight end don't get enough credit for their job in that game. Like the separation that they were able to get, beating the Patriot defenders by 1 step, 2 steps, being in the right spot, the hellacious catches that they had. They did a great job. So Pittsburgh and Philly, it would have been first off, I would have had to gone. You know, well, then again, I mean, the game's not played in Pennsylvania, so it's not like I could have made a trip down there. But that would have been a magnificent sort of bragging rights, all this other stuff. I would have loved to have been in that atmosphere, man.
Yeah, that would have been an all Pennsylvania Super Bowl, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But it was three attempts at a ring that we missed out on.
Nah, that 17 one is the one I'm thinking about the most, though. That's interesting. I feel like Pittsburgh had a chance to beat them. Because you have the pass rush, and that's gonna bother Foles. You know what I mean? Like if that was Wentz actually loved that season, so that would have been a problem. Wentz loved pressure that year, so I don't know if he would beat him if Wentz was there. But if with Foles, I might have taken it. It's possible. Now that I think about it. Mm-hmm. But Jaguars had to beat Jaguars and ruin things, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Absolutely
So
brutal.
Where does this fandom come from? Why are you a Pittsburgh fan? When and like how did this manifest?
The year was 2000. I was 6 years old, and I came back because me being a native, New Yorker living in New York, we only got Giants and Jets games. So it was week 4. It was like late September, early October. I believe it was late September. It might have been early October. But came home back from church, 6 years old, turned on the television, and the first thing that I see, it's played on CBS. Big ass Jerome Bettis running into the end zone. It's a 12-yard touchdown. So I'm sitting there like, who the hell is this big dude? So I start to play, and I had a N64. So I'm playing NFL quarterback 2001. Brett Favre is on the cover of that cartridge. So gotcha. I always played with the Packers because I figured, well, Brett Favre's on the cover. You're supposed to play with the cover, team. And for some apparent reason, I could not beat the Steelers, which doesn't make sense because the 2000 Steelers team was atrocious. But I could not beat the Steelers. So I said, all right, let me play with this team. And I remembered watching Jerome Bettis score that touchdown. I do the franchise mode, everything. I go 16-0. Nobody can tackle Bettis. When you pressed A on the N64 control, you kind of lean that shoulder. Bettis ran everybody over. So I'm like, man, this is my team. And then the next year, 2001 came, and then Pittsburgh made it all the way to the AFC Championship, and then I've been a fan ever since 2000.
Not bad. I like that.
Wow.
Jerome Bettis.
Jerome Bettis
does him,
the
right?
bus.
Oh yeah. That was a big dude. And he was fast. He was very deception. He had deception speed.
He did for a big guy. Definitely was. A lot of people call him a fullback. I'm like, he ain't run like a fullback.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't run like a fullback. I think when he came into the league, they had him listed as like a fullback, halfback, kind of doing both. I remember on Peyton's Places, they were joking about him being the one who killed the fullback.
No. That dude could run. You mentioned playing football.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that? You said how it got up. You played because of the Steelers and Jerome Bettis. But what position did you play, and what happened to that?
Okay, so high school I played everything. But then college, I played strictly wide receiver. I played for Alfred State College, and initially my favorite player of all time is Peyton Manning. My favorite Steeler is Hines Ward. So I said, you know what? If I'm gonna play the position, I'm gonna play it through and through. I just don't want to be like, oh, throw me the ball, everything. When they call run plays, I'm getting in your face. I'm blocking
Hines
it.
Ward.
My coaches taught me. I learned all of the different, the tricks and twists on how to block somebody and get up inside their pads and somehow get your finger conjoined underneath the shoulder pad and twist a nipple while you're there and everything. So it's just a whole lot of things that you do. So I loved it. But when I was in college, it was a little bit of a favoritism sort of situation where ball weren't coming your way. You're always in rotation. You're getting open. You're showing the film, but then the coaches have, players whom they're familiar with. So let's get the ball to them. So I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. So I played. I was never, I wasn't no super highly ranked. I was a decent football player for what it was worth. I'm never gonna be that guy. Like, man, I could have been in the league. Nah, I wasn't happy.
But that's still sad, though. It sucks. Have that type of biasness happening towards you. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, but ultimately, it is what it is. There's nothing that you can do. I'm here now, so
because
it's working.
Yeah, because it possibly, I don't know if this opened up your comedy career, but you're a comedian now, and how did that manifest? Because that's interesting, going from being a football player to a comedian. That's interesting.
Because initially I had only gone to college because I said, man, I want to play football. I don't want to go to college if I'm not going to at least give it an attempt. Because the one thing I did not want to do was be that guy who's like 30 plus sitting on a lazy boy at my house just thinking, man, what if I took a shot on this? What if I took a shot on that? So I said, I'm only going to college if I have the ability to be able to play football. So ultimately, after I finished my second season, going into my third, and I'm sitting there like, man, we were getting ready to go to training camp, and I had a slight hesitation. It was the first time in my life that I ever got out of bed, and I was just, had a groan of, man, I got to leave early to go to practice. I kind of want to stay here. So once that happened, I say, yeah, I love the game too much. I'm not gonna disrespect the game. I'm just throw up the cleats, do the Marshawn Lynch, hang the cleats over the wire, and then that's pretty much it for me. So I remember I was finishing up my degree, and my business law professor came to me and he said, hey, he pulled me to the side after class. He's like, yo, why are you here? Like, that's a loaded question to ask me. What do you mean, why am I here? It's like, no, why are you here? Do you not, like, what are you looking to get out of this? I'm like, well, I'm in school, finish up my degree, then possibly go and get a job somewhere. He's like, you should be in entertainment. I'm like, what do you mean? And he ran down different things that I would do in class that was just ridiculously entertaining for no damn reason. So I said, okay. He said, just go back to your room when you finish and just think about it for a second. So I said, all right. And I went back to my room and I did a whole life reflection. And the one conduit between every point in my life had always been comedy, being able to be funny, make people laugh, make myself laugh. So I said, damn. He probably he got a point. So from that particular point, I switched my degree. It went from a 4-year. I said, man, give me a 2-year. I'll get the hell up out of here this semester. I'll get my associates. I'll leave. So when that happened, I left. I did all of the research on stand-up and comedy, everything that I could, just to figure out ahead of time, what am I getting myself into? So I finished school late 2014. 2015, I start working at the airport, and I worked a series of different odd jobs. But I knew through all of the research, all right, if you're going to go to open mics, you're going to try to do stand-up here, you're going to have to spend probably approximately this amount of money. If you're going to get on social media, there's this, there's that, there's this. So I said, okay, let me just save up as much money as I can this year, leave whatever job I'm at, possibly do a little bit of part-time no matter, throughout the next 2 years or whatever, and just focus 110% on everything. I did my very first stand-up show, and I did exactly that. I did my very first stand-up open mic in February of 2016. I created my Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. It says created in 2013, but I didn't start posting until 2016. And I started from that part, and then I just said, you know what? I'll do stand-up and I'll do social media at the exact same time, because when I did stand-up for the very first time, it was in front of 16 to 20 people. When I posted my very first video online, it got 1,000 views. I was just ranting in my car. So I'm like, man, if I can get all of these people online as well, I should do both. Now, although it feels like I'm kind of cheating the craft, because growing up, my favorite comedian has always been Patrice O'Neal, and I have other guys, Bill Burr, Kevin Hart, Dave Chappelle, Dave Attell, Chris Rock, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, all these guys. But they came up going through the ringer in comedy. So I said, man, if I'm doing online, that's kind of cheating the system. It's not doing the same. But noticing at the switch of the times and the attention spans, a lot of people ain't going, like this. So I said, you know what? I'm going to fuse the two of them together and make it work. So that's what I've been doing ever since, and it's been about 5.5 years. I'm approaching the half part. 5.5 years doing comedy full time, and man, I'm happy I made the decision. I'm overjoyed I made the decision, because it's truly what I was put here on earth to do, at least in my opinion.
That's wonderful.
We're native New Yorkers as well, right? We're from native New Yorkers as well. And my first video that I've seen you was when you was upset that they was thinking about raising the fare to 275, and I was like, first of all, this fare is too damn high to be raising the stakes and stuff like that. And I was like, it's cool to see someone who's in the same city as us, who's doing big things. We're doing big things with him. And it's like, it's an inspiration. It's like, it's really cool that from back then to where you are right now, man, it's incredible. It's incredible, man.
I appreciate that. That was the first video of mine that actually hit super viral. Well, at least over 1 million with my face in it, because I had done one video prior. I think it was like Soulja Boy working out, talking about he was going to fight against Orlando Brown and Chris Brown, and that did 1 million. But that one was the first one that made me feel like, whoa, people are stopping me in the street, talking me, yo, man, I watched your video, I saw you. I'm like, the hell? Where is this coming from? Like, I've never got a big head about myself to where I can't walk out. Let me wear hoodies in 90-degree weather because somebody might recognize me. I've never been that guy. But doing videos like that and just being able to be relatable to people, that's always been very cool to me.
The R word, relatable. Mm-hmm. Which then leads to your commentaries. How did that start?
Man, I was on Facebook. And I remember I was just scrolling, and the very first football commentary I ever did, I think it was a Thursday night game, and it was Seattle, and at the time they were the St. Louis Rams. Mm-hmm. And it was the punter went to go punt the ball, and instead of punting, he just said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna run." So he was running, and then he fumbled the ball. Nobody touched him. He just fumbled the ball. That video ended up getting like 350,000 views. I'm like, whoa. Wait a minute here. Maybe I could do something with it. But I put it off. This was during the 2016 season. Then when the NBA Finals the following year came around, this was when the Cavs were the reigning champions, and then they played against the Kevin Durant Super Warriors.
The Justice League Warriors.
And yeah. And when they played again, I'm like, man. And randomly, I was on YouTube, and I came across an old clip of NFL Primetime. Said, yo, somebody should do like voiceovers on, sports and make it funny like Chris Berman did back in the day. And then I stopped like, wait, I should do that. So I did it for the NBA Finals, and after game 2, I ended up getting blocked. Because I did a video on like crackheads or some of that, and it got like 2 million views in like 2 days, and then they blocked me for a month. So I'm like, damn. So
there was the crackhead lifting competition.
Oh yeah, it's the crackhead lifting competition, and the dude who was able to like he did a backflip off the roof or some of that nature, and that was the video that ended up getting blocked. So I'm like, man. And once the season came around, it popped into my mind again, like, yo, I should try this. And let me see how it works out. So I just started randomly just recording on one Sunday. I didn't even do all of the games. The very first week 1 of 2017, it's like 2 minutes of just rapid fire going and just terrible clips and just putting the stuff together. And it wasn't until about, I think it was week 3 of that season in 2017 on Thursday night. This was the game that made me believe, this is what I'm going to do. Where it was the Rams and it was the 49ers. And Pierre Garçon had like 180 some yards. It was an amazing Thursday night game because both teams scored over 40. And I remember writing on my Facebook, I'm like, yo, this game is going to have to get its own separate video. I post that video. It gets 500,000 views. I'm like, man, all right, we're going to roll with this. This is what we doing. And then week 4, prime time, when I did the Sunday night and the Monday night together, that was the first one that hit 1 million, and then I rolled with the rest, and here we are now.
Yeah, that season was when I started watching you. I believe it was the week 2 game. That's when I'm like, this is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life on Facebook.
Hilarious.
And then ever since then, and now see you started putting on YouTube. I said, oh nah, subscribe. Let me do this every week. I look forward to the one ever since. Amazing stuff. So, what's your direction now? What's next?
Well, for one, I don't know how long I'm gonna be doing the commentary. Truly, I don't wanna become one of those people who's like a has been, like you're a shell of your former self. So the goal in comedy has always been, since I started, sell out Madison Square Garden. I want to be able to go and sell out Madison Square Garden. And initially it was like, man, there's been a ton of stand-ups who've done it, but at this particular point, there's been nobody, to my knowledge, who started with pretty much like the internet age, had the social media presence, and then sold out the Garden. So ultimately, that's what the goal is. But as it pertains to what's coming up next with the channel, during the spring, I did like a 5-part series on Mike Tyson. And I want to expand to just doing commentary, not only on just sports, but everything. Like I have my social commentaries. I have whenever there's some lady, some random harlot on a podcast will say something crazy, I'll have something to say about that. And then I just want to be able to touch everything, like cover everything, and have the ability to make everything funny. So I guess that's what's coming up, next. And of course, sliding in DMs and things like that.
Yeah, I'm about to mention that now.
Yeah. It actually just returned back on Instagram. I just got to watch it
the other day.
See how I can make it happen on YouTube. I have the complete the 2-year compilation. I have it. It's just a matter of just waiting to see if YouTube strikes it, because I've had 7 different strikes from just those videos alone on posting them on YouTube. So I kind of got to be careful now. So I don't mess around and get blocked, especially during the football season.
Why they don't want you to succeed, man? They always stop knocking your stuff down. I don't understand.
Man, I really wish I knew, because my thing is, if I'm violating community guidelines, just be specific and explain to me what in particular it was that I broke, which rule did I break, and I'll avoid that moving forward. The problem that I have with it is they'll say, oh, well, there's a copyright issue that's here. Well, if it's a copyright, why is it that my channel can't have this, but then this other channel will have the exact same clip and it's not even altered, and theirs is allowed to, go and stay up? Then they'll say, oh, there's some harassment or bullying that's happening here. Well, that's not really the case that's transpiring here. It's 2 different things. And when you try to plead your case, you're not speaking to a human person. You're talking to an AI. Mm-hmm. So because that's the case, I can't debate with a computer. It's like the computer writing to you, hey, are you a robot? No, you're a robot. So what are we doing here? It's not. So since that's the case, I've been trying to tiptoe, in a sense, to not mess around and get flagged, because when they block me, they block me everywhere.
They literally do. Didn't that happen to you on Pornhub too, or no?
Yeah, 5 times.
It did, right?
Oh yeah, 5 times.
How you get blocked in Pornhub?
No, first of all, when he said he put his contact on Pornhub, I was like, oh no way! I couldn't believe it. I said, even he put it on Pornhub. Yo, it's so funny.
And I passed like 1,000 subscribers on there too. I'm like, man, I got 49,000 more until Pornhub has to acknowledge me and send me a varsity jacket with my name on the back. That'll become my signature, choice of clothing.
That is incredible.
Yeah, the acknowledge me there may not be the same as the Roman Reigns version of acknowledge him. I don't think.
Oh yeah, probably not.
Oh yeah, you're a wrestling fan too. I think about it.
Who
was your all-time favorite wrestler?
Oh, my all-time favorite wrestler in ring, Chris Benoit, but overall character, The Rock.
The Rock. Okay. That explains a lot, because your character is actually kind of similar to him. Think about it. Not bad. I know. How you feel about wrestling nowadays versus back in the day? How long you been a wrestling fan, first of all?
Oh, I've been a wrestling fan since I'm 4 years old, 1990. I've been a fan my whole life.
So you're basically Attitude Era and on, basically.
Oh yeah, okay. Attitude Era and on. And the only problem that I have with wrestling now is, I think Jim Cornette had actually talked about it, where he said the issue that wrestlers have now is they stop pretending that wrestling was real. Like before, when they would keep kayfabe alive and they attempted to make everything look real, it made sense. Now, when you're trying to get a storyline over but then immediately you're all hanging out with each other, and there's no sort of illusion. It kills what's happening. Like with social media, people are way too smart for their own good. Like you go out of your way to spoil things for yourself. I don't. I stay away from all dirt sheets. I try not to watch any additional interviews that could give stuff away. I like to be surprised. So I'll just watch the product and watch things unfold. But the in-ring work and the promos to things being scripted, it needs to go back to where it's every man for themselves, every woman for themselves. I think their best way to fix and go back to the glory days of what we saw growing up, either one, the other territories like the AEWs and New Japan get so big to where WWE has to fight for survival, or WWE cuts down on the timing of their shows. So let's just say Raw is no longer 3 hours. Cut it down to like a 90 minutes to a 2-hour show, and everybody doesn't get a segment. You've got to earn your spot on television. If you're not getting TV time, guess what? We firing you. That's what it just needs to be. People's jobs got to be on the line to bring that creativity back out, because there's way too much people who's happy just be, hey, I'm a wrestler, I'm on television here and there. No, you got to aspire to be great.
That's a great point. I think Undertaker says something very similar to that too. I forget what. Like, there was a stretch where he was in like 16 podcasts in like a week. So I forget which one I heard him, but
he said it started getting soft. Like nobody's really going on the road and saying, man, I want to be at the top of my game. Like Vince respected people who said, I want to be the best. I'm here to be the best. Like at the end of the day, and it's similar to kind of what goes on in comedy or even with musicians and things of that nature. The moment you've got that mic in your hand, you now control what's going on. Like it doesn't matter if Kevin Hart is coming on after me on stage. If I go out there and I kill it for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and I do better than he did, he could come down and say, oh, man, how dare you? I'm supposed to be the headliner. You came up here and showed me up. At the end of the day, the people are who you come here to please, not anybody else. So Roman Reigns may be the hottest thing going in wrestling right now. But if Apollo Crews go out there and give you an all-time classic match on a week-in, week-out basis, how the hell Vince McMahon going to turn around and, yeah, we got to let this guy go. He's performing too good. That's ridiculous. So guys and girls got to be willing to go out there and put on classics on a week-in and a week-out match. I'm tired of every single week you seeing the same match left and right. It's lazy booking. Whenever they're trying to get an angle over, they'll have the same people booked in the same segments, the same sort of movements every single week. If you didn't watch Raw in the start of the month, by the time you reach the end of the month, you're watching the same show.
50-50 booking is ridiculous. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. So what they got to do is get back to that creativity. If you're a champion, you should be running through people. I think they should get more backstage segments to where you don't see somebody wrestle every single week. Like NXT, before they kind of destroyed it now. What made it so good was it was 1 hour, and the people who you saw who wrestled that night was amazing matches. Backstage segments were great, and there was a demand for certain superstars because you didn't see them on a weekly basis. Asuka didn't wrestle every single night, but when she wrestled, you made sure you tuned in. So if WWE adopts that and goes back to that, I think things will work. And then all the other promotions, it's just a matter of just bringing back that reality.
That's a great point. Great point.
I
hogged this, so yeah, anything to say?
Nah, it's cool. It's cool. I'm saying SummerSlam is coming up. It's coming up right now. They did really, as far as like before they matched any matches for SummerSlam, it sold out. So it's like now the fans are back in the state. It's back in the stadium. They're Allegiant Stadium this week. Coming up, and it's like now you look at the card officially. Like besides John Cena, and Roman Reigns, like. So there's really nothing to be excited about for this card. Like,
Rollins and Edge.
I mean, Rollins and Edge, man. There's a few, but for the most part, it's like a SmackDown Raw Super Show. Like what? Like for some, like your take on SummerSlam.
To me, it's a SmackDown show with Raw garbage.
Yeah,
that's what I'm smelling.
Yeah, I agree because I feel like they really missed the ball with Brock and Bobby. What they should have done was through the house at Brock to get him to come back. I understand Goldberg is signed for 2 matches a year, but Brock and Bobby is the match. So now Apparently, I think it was randomly. I had gotten a notification. I think it was from like Twitter. Somebody had tagged me in it, and it said that Survivor Series is apparently supposed to be in Brooklyn. So if this happens, I need both Reigns and Lashley to hold on to the title so we can see that clash. Because Heyman and MVP on the mic. That's gonna be cool. But as it pertains to SummerSlam, Reigns and Cena, that's the match on the marquee to drive people in. But we saw that same match 4 years ago. So Cena has to put himself in a position to where you really believe he's going to mess around and win. And he embarrassed Reigns on the mic this past SmackDown. Yeah. So Reigns has been working his ass off this past year. And then Cena just walks right back in and treats him like a damn child. So Reigns better come with it. This go home edition of SmackDown right before SummerSlam that's going to be on a Saturday.
Yeah, on a Saturday.
Reigns and Cena, I expect that match to deliver. Bianca and Sasha, I'm disappointed that the build for the rematch is just so short. It should have been built over a longer period of time. But I expect them to go out there and perform the same way they did at WrestleMania. Lashley and Goldberg, it's going to be high impact, but it's going to be a very quick match.
Very quick, yeah.
Goldberg's not wrestling over 10 minutes. It's not happening. We'll be lucky if he makes it to 5. And I really want to see his son get speared. I don't know why. It's just his son he spent too much time smiling. And I get it. Like, you're 15 years old. Your dad's Goldberg. You're playing high school football. Things are in your favor. But he's had way too many good moments. Like, somebody need to rough him up or something. If we're gonna insert people's families, let him be like Cena's father. Cena's father was getting his ass whipped every time.
It was amazing. Oh, yes.
So what they should do with Goldberg's son, they should probably have it's too late now because there's no more Raws before SummerSlam. But they should have like a backstage segment right before SummerSlam starts. His son on the floor looking like Peter Griffin backstage, got his ass whipped by MVP or something of that nature. It would really work wonders for the angle. But there's that match, and then outside of that, there's and Rollins and Edge. That was 7 years in the making, or 6 years in the making. But outside of that core 4, there's nothing really else on the card that really catches your attention. Like, God bless Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair and Nikki ASH, but it's not really an interesting sort of story. We've been seeing Charlotte and Rhea for the last 3.5 months. We saw them wrestle last year at Mania. It's not a situation where we really care. The Raw Tag Team Championships, it's been boring. We all love Randy Orton, but
I was about to say, at least that got a little bit of I kind of like Matt Riddle a little bit because of that.
Yeah,
and Randy Orton together.
Of comedic relief. It's a little
that's what
bit
it
of
is.
Stuff that's there, and AJ Styles is always great. Omos is just once he leaves AJ, he's gonna fizzle out. Like what can he do? AJ's there to make him look good, but soon enough, AJ's gonna have to go back to the world title picture because you can't keep him in the tag division for long. No. He's still AJ Styles. On the SmackDown side, the Usos now have the titles, but it's become more about what's happening with Roman than what's going on with the Usos. So you don't really look at that title. Sheamus, for all intents and purposes, the U.S. title, it really mattered when it was on Lashley. Now it's just, I forgot about it.
Yes, I forgot about that.
They're going to have, most likely, I believe it's Jinder and
McIntyre.
Like, Jinder's
who cares?
Just gonna get his ass whipped. Nobody cares. Said Alexa Bliss, and her and Eva Marie, like all of these other.
Okay, so that's the pre-show because that's no way.
Because she been fighting against that what's her name, Dune Drop, something like that. I don't know what her name is, but they're just a bunch of filler matches. SummerSlam shouldn't be no longer than 3 hours. Have 6 matches, and then move on. Everybody don't need to be on the card. The Women's Tag Team Championship, man, get rid of those titles if you're not going to have a real tag team. Mm-hmm. Like, when it was on Bayley and Sasha, it was a good title, but they didn't have any challengers. No. So either build a legitimate women's tag division or get rid of those titles, because Tamina and Natty, they need to be in the retirement home. Ain't no reason why they should be in the damn ring. I can't. Oh, it's enough. I had enough of them.
They both been wrestling for almost 15 years, dude. Like, both of them.
And
they were wrestling so long that Tamina was skinny. That's how long it's been.
Like Tamina, I don't know how long they're gonna keep trying to get Tamina to get over. It's never going to work.
It's never gonna
She's
work.
not her father. Her in-ring work is extremely stiff. It's never been good. Natty can wrestle,
Yeah,
but
she
that's
can.
all
But that's
she
it.
can do. Is
Mhm.
just wrestle. She's been extremely boring. Like I think Total Divas, they had like a clip 7 years ago or something. She only did missionary with her husband for like 15 years. When Reigns and Cena were talking about missionary, they were talking about her. Boring. I've had enough of Natty and Tamina. They need to get up out of here.
Oh man, but AEW coming to Queens in September. It's a big deal for the company because WWE's always been, this is New York territory, but them coming there, do you see them hitting another stride there as far as like they can really make a big
CM Punk.
Oh man.
I'll say I expect them to continue to make strides. The only issue is it's a ton of ex WWE guys now. It's like I think Omega had said like 75% or something of that nature. So it's now, rather than homegrown talent, it's more predicated on people who were failed stars in WWE or past stars in WWE. So it's the same thing. But I'm hoping that AEW can start to gain enough traction to where WWE can start to feel the fire underneath their feet. But WWE's making more money now than they ever did before.
Yep.
AEW's got a ton of work to do, but I just need the wars to return, because at the end of the day, ratings is what matters. So if AEW can move to Mondays and battle against Raw to where now the numbers are reflecting, hey,
Monday
you're
Night
getting
Wars.
beat, things can work out. Because at the end of the day, the in-ring work in both companies, if they want it to look impeccable, it will. Because the generation of wrestlers we have now,
They're too athletic.
for the most part, can put on a 5-star. Depend by this year, this generation's standards. It's not going to be like a Steamboat and Savage from the past, but it's going to be like an Omega and Okada kind of match.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh my God, you're tuned into everything that's happening. So I'm not concerned about the in-ring work, but the character building, the storylines, the construction of the show. If AEW can get to the level to where now people want to see them go head to head against Raw, now we're going to start to see, good wrestling once again, at least as it pertains to a full product.
All right.
Chiseled Adonis, everybody. I gotta give a round of applause, man. This is awesome. This is awesome. We hope you guys enjoy. I enjoyed this.
There's no way in hell they didn't enjoy this.
We've enjoyed. We enjoyed this. This is awesome.
Right, and we're in the show.
And we're in the show, and I was entertained.
I'm in the show too. I enjoyed it as well.
Anyway, we appreciate everybody to listen there before we leave. Make sure you guys, you gotta do like, share, subscribe. We're on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play Radio, Stitcher Play Radio, app Podcast Dynasty on Twitter. Check us out on the Facebook group. Post, and continue to share. And most importantly, also, please check out Chiseled Adonis on.
They're already there.
You're already there, but come on, if you haven't, this guy is hysterical. Always has me crying every time I watch his videos, man.
Not only that, you see how educated he is, because it's not a side you see very often. If you listen to our entire show, how he just schooled us on Pittsburgh anything and it's just football knowledge in general has been nothing short of spectacular. So he's not just only the funniest dude around, he's also a very smart individual, as you heard today. So there's your showcase.
Yes,
I appreciate that. That means a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man, people gotta know your other sides, man.
Yes,
they already know you're funny as hell, but they gotta know you're smart as hell too.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
So with that said, this show is
over. We'll see you guys soon. Peace, love, and applesauce.